What is the best way to go about getting a job broadcasting at the BBC? And can you go, straight from university?
Why are you looking at me? There's lots and lots of ways, Tom. I mean, the great thing I think about organisations like the BBC now is when I joined, BBC positively put certain sorts of people off joining. It advertised in small boxes on the back of magazines like The Spectator and The Listener. And you had to be of a certain class or a certain approach to life or a certain demographic background to even find the bloody adverts, and they were written in Latin. Now the organisation is much more porous, much more open, and you can just go on the websites and look at all the opportunities up and down the UK. So there's a few things to say. One is be a bit less concerned with going to London, because London's not where it's going to be at all the time forever. The media is devolving like lots of other industries, and a lot of the freshest, newest storytellers are going to come from Glasgow and from the northwest and the northeast. And we're making ourselves, we're making the industry, we're engineering it in a way that will make it fairer to people and more interesting for people who spend more of their lives and come from areas other than the southeast. And we think that's a good thing. And then the other thing I think is don't neglect the kind of local networks in the BBC. I mean, Helen here, who works in Leeds, I'm going to point them all in your direction because they'll now mug you instead of me after this event. But a lot of the best careers and the best entry points in the BBC really are at a local level, just learning, basic skills with people who do it day in, day out, with all those deadlines, all that pressure. Because at a local level, if you don't get it right, somebody comes in and thumps you. It's a very quick way, I think, of learning that you've got to get the detail right. Sorry, I sound like I'm describing the media as a sort of brutal act of torture. I'm not, but it's just a great way of, picking up really great skills and being accurate and all those things. And the one thing just to say, to echo up something you said here, is think about those alliances, think about collaboration, think about the networks you can build, think about coming at the business now with lots of options and lots of interests and a whole range of things that excite and delight you, because that's what we're all looking for. We're not looking for people who've got closed minds, fixed ideas, and few options. We're looking for people who are considering all the options.
My first job at the BBC was as a result of winning a competition, which sounds a bit odd, but in actual fact, I always kept my ear to the ground and to see what sort of things were being offered. And I read about the Untold London scheme, which was a project to make a film about your community. And I wanted to make a film about Hampstead Heath, which is where I hang out. Not for those reasons always, but anyway, so I made a musical film about Hampstead Heath, which was nominated for an RTS award. So I immediately went from somebody who did theatre to having directed a short film for the BBC, which was being entered for awards, and that led directly to a series of other commissions. So I think it's really important to really just keep your eye to the ground and see what's going on out there, see what the opportunities are, see what's out there. And the other thing I would say, you can all help yourself while you're at university, because I always feel, I was at York and I feel I didn't really do enough while I was a student to get out there. When I finished university, it was like this little bubble we lived in here, and I wasn't preparing. I was just having fun, and I was doing lots of shows in the drama barn. But actually, what you guys can be doing, if you're interested in filmmaking, if you're interested in that kind of thing, is getting together with your mates while they're free, while all your friends, you can borrow any form of camera, put your stuff online, get it on YouTube, get those hits rolling in, because the buzzword in marketing at the moment is viral things. If you can go to a company and say, look, I put this on YouTube and it's got 1 million hits, that is the future, and you can be doing that now. You can do that tomorrow. It will take a day.
Can I add a nice little story? One of our clients is John West, and we do all the TV ads for John West. And last year, John West wanted to launch fresh fish into the market, and I'd watched on a BBC reel. I'd watched a little film by a director called Gemma Burdett, who'd, I think, been runner-up in this competition, and she'd animated a rowing boat rowing down a street. And I thought, this is a really good idea for getting fresh fish from sea to supermarket in the quickest fashion, would be to row it to the supermarket. And it's a really nice little story. So I went on the BBC website, found Gemma's details on there, put a contact out on there, and then I thought, well, that's going to be maybe too slow. I'll go onto Facebook. So I went onto Facebook. I'd never been on it. This is about 18 months ago. I'd never been on it. It was still, it wasn't as popular then as it's now. It just seems to have taken completely over. And I thought, well, I'll see if she's on it. And of course, Gemma, being an interesting, creative person, was, an early adopter of all these things. So she was on there. Within 3 hours of coming up with the idea, I was on the phone to Gemma. We'd thrashed out that if the client bought this idea, that she would direct it, so it's true to the concept. We made the film. It's since won several advertising awards, silver at Kinsale. So it's a really nice little story. And I know Ben earlier was talking about, creative people sort of getting ripped off and whatever, but I think that's one where we got to the bottom of it through the BBC or through the internet, and it's goes back to getting stuff out there and making it, and somebody will notice.
I think your chances of going straight from university to being a broadcaster at the BBC are about nil. Right? And I think one of the things you've got to recognise is this is a very competitive market. Look how many people there are here. So what you've got to think about is, why me? If you honestly think you're going to see a job in The Guardian and apply for it and get it, it's not going to happen for most of you. Therefore, you've got to work out, how do I get known? How do I get about? Who do I see? I came to the conclusion after employing people for 30 years that I only want to employ positive people. I no longer want to employ miserable buggers because they're clever. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I came across a company in the United States called Southwest Airlines, which is a famous business school case, where they said, we employ for attitude. We can teach anybody skills, we employ for attitude. And I think that's right, and I think the people who come in and you apply for a job, there's thousands. Why would they read yours? Is there anything about yours that makes it interesting, different, exciting, funny? Funny is a good one, actually. But, I mean, what gets you through that list when you get in, if you go and knock on somebody's door and say, look, I need a job, why should they take you? And it's all about thought and personality and the rest of it. And if you get put off after 4 attempts and you don't do any more, you're not going to get a job in this industry. You've got to keep going, keep banging. I mean, I was lucky. I never applied for one. No, it's not true. My first job at the BBC was Director General, which was quite a good one, really. But I did apply to be a reporter on Radio Teesside in 1970-odd and didn't get the job, so I always like that. But then it was more structured. Today, you've just got to go around, you've got to get to talk to people like Helen sitting in the front here who actually, you've got to talk to people who actually still employ people. People like Helen, who runs a thing over in Hull, which actually employs a lot of people, and you want to get some work experience over there, and you want to go over there, and it's exactly what Peter said. That's the way into this industry in almost every part of it. As you say, do some ideas, put them on YouTube, show them that you're not just saying, I want to be a journalist or I want to be a filmmaker. Why would they take you? It's all about you selling yourself, and that's about energy and ideas and being positive.
Can I just tell you about Paddy? Paddy he graduated last year from a different university, and my daughter rang me up and said, there's this bloke called Paddy and he's brilliant. And he'd sought out Rocker because of me and convinced her that I should see him. And I said, well, I don't have any jobs, no vacancies. He said, I'll come work for nothing. I'll give you 3 weeks of my time. And he did. He came before Christmas. I gave him a job, specific job. He was so brilliant. He was so fantastic. I've just employed him for 3 months. And if I don't employ him full-time at the end of 3 months, I'm mad. And Peter will, I know, because he's by far the best researcher I've ever had. But he really stood out, and he bothered to...
So that you get to our families.
Yeah. It's all there on Facebook.
We know where you live. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It is
true.
the way. Sending letters is almost completely pointless, because they just sit there in a pile. And unless there's some amazing thing connected with it, like some easy press here and there's my work, you're not going to bother.